Good afternoon and welcome to Today on Bay TV. I'm Liz Cairns and this is Gaynor Morgan.
And we're joined today by Neath MP Christina Rees, the Shadow Secretary of State for Wales, and also by lawyer Peter Lynn. Thank you very much from Peter Lynn and Partners. But I think we're going to start today with some really serious business, and it's fashion. And we want to answer the question, what summer headwear is popular with members of the Shadow Cabinet?
What I'm going to ask you to do as well is put the earplugs in that I gave you earlier. This is going to be the photographic competition. Private eye will be I didn't realise we do this way. Right. Okay, I've got earplugs. Somewhere. Oh, you'll be alright. Sure.
Well, nice and colourful, nice and yellow, it's summer.
Very fetching. Do you normally wear a hairnet?
Oh, yes, dear.
Was it a good day?
It was a great day. Had a really good visit to Puffin Produce and had a tour of the way they, all the vegetables is grown locally in local farms, and it's a private business, but they run it as a cooperative. So all the profit gets ploughed back in and they've managed to grow in volume, and it's produce just for Wales, and they supply big supermarkets, and all their packaging has got the Welsh flag on.
Oh, that's lovely.
I remember when it was set up and some wag said who would name a food producing company after an inedible bird. But anyway.
Yeah, it's something to do with the puffin is seen off the coast at that part of the world, so they thought they'd make it a local name.
I don't know, it's a great venture. But anyway, all joking aside, and I'm sure you don't normally wear hairnets, there was a serious message delivered, I think, wasn't there, by the Shadow Chancellor? Yeah.
We've lost the electrification of the Cardiff-Swansea rail. Is there a risk of us losing the Swansea Bay tidal lagoon?
I'm furious about what happened on the electrification, and what I'm angry about as well is it wasn't. You know, I think this is a real. It demonstrates. You know, Labour did very well in terms of the general election in Wales. This is almost like retribution for voting Labour in terms of that last general election. I think it's offensive, to say the least. The other issue is it was announced on the last day of Parliament, so no oral statement to the House, so Welsh LPs couldn't even question the Minister. There was no debate as a result of that. I find that disgraceful. It's offensive democratically. Now I'm worried that there's other commitments, like the lagoon, that we need commitments from this government on now. And look, I'm a London MP, but I've just come from London. Chris Grayling, the Transport Minister, can talk about government backing Crossrail 2 at billions of pounds worth, and there seems to be a priority for London and the South East, and yet in places like Wales, they're tearing up the agreements. It's unacceptable.
Some strong words there, isn't it?
Yes. What's your take on it, Christina?
Well, John doesn't mince his words.
Well, we noticed that.
Understatement of the decade. But what we were trying to fight for was really the equal travel aspect from Cardiff to Swansea. What was really annoying is they sneaked it out as a written statement on the last day. We were tipped off by the press because it appeared in the Western Mail, and I read it at 5 a.m. that morning, and I thought, God, what can we do?
But I think the overarching point that McDonnell's making there is that really the Conservatives, or the government's hitting back at Swansea because it didn't vote any Conservatives in. Would they really be that petty?
I think that they don't know where Wales is. I think that's clear from a lot of the policies that they've enforced on Wales. And, for example, the tidal lagoon. What's happened to the tidal lagoon? It was all set to go. The Henry report came out. The Henry report came out last January. It was passed to government. Then appeared to be no reason for the hold-up, and it's on hold.
You haven't quite said whether you agree with McDonnell's sentiments or not.
Well, you can press me on that if you want to, Gaynor, but I have given you an answer. You know,
would the government be that petty? I know you've said that they don't know that Wales exists, but would they be that petty that word retribution was used?
Well, I don't know. It's a cumulative effect that I was trying to illustrate. It's not only stopping electrification at Cardiff, it's the tidal lagoon. It's the North Wales Growth Plan. what's happened to that? So it seems as if it's not only this part of Wales that are suffering, it's all parts of Wales that are suffering under this Tory regime.
Peter Lynn, your company specialises really in small to medium businesses. Yeah. How is non-electrification and, dare we say, perhaps the lack of a lagoon, how's that going to fit our
It's huge, it's exactly as been said. We feel like the poor relation. The further west you are, the poorer you feel, further from Westminster. It's about infrastructure generally. Infrastructure is vital for West Wales. I don't just mean physical infrastructure such as rail or road. Broadband infrastructure is poor. It has to be spread across West Wales. We have huge economic advantages with our workforce, our geography, our people.
You can't operate without broadband anymore.
But you need better infrastructure, and I'm very worried that tidal lagoon projects, big engineering projects like this, are obviously direct financial loss for this region. There are many businesses who spent hundreds of thousands of pounds already in tendering, in readiness for such projects. So they are in limbo. They can't make decisions on capital and employment expenditure until they have these certainties. And so it's just really I understand that it's not a massive amount of time saved between Cardiff to Swansea, but it is the image, the impression it gives.
It also makes no sense. If you look at these bimodal trains, they were invented in the 60s. They were started to be used in the 90s in South America. They've been used extensively, but it makes no sense to have a bimodal train to Cardiff, which is heavier because you're carrying the electrical pack plus diesel fuel, and then from Cardiff on, it's diesel. So really, the cost and the wear and tear on the track alone doesn't make sense. You know, and the environmental aspect, which you were very keen on, Gaynor, you know. Yes. And why should we suffer diesel fumes from Cardiff to Swansea where they don't up until Cardiff? It makes no sense.
Is it retribution, Peter, do you think, by the government?
Well, politicians can't say so. Certainly there don't seem to be many votes in Wales, and I'm very worried about the post-Brexit situation as well. Let's be fair, but we are having billions of pounds of European funding. I cannot see this central government matching that level of funding in Wales. Discussions, I understand, are already taking place about that, but I'm not aware of the large amounts of subsidy for such things as infrastructure projects, broadband, etc. And I'm very concerned for small businesses. However, that's not to put a negative. Small businesses, in my view, in Swansea Bay are doing very, very well and are punching above their weight at the moment.
Yes,
I think that's
just that in the third part video, definitely.
Sorry, Liz. That's why I think that Rob Stewart, the leader of Swansea, has been so instrumental in getting the Swansea Bay City Region deal, which covers Neath as well, and that's big on digital, on the digital economy. So I'm hoping that, you know, the infrastructure for broadband and other sort of IT mechanisms will be in place through that deal.
Plenty more to discuss throughout the programme.
Quickly, because we haven't got much time left, on July 28th, 1978, Animal House released. This is National Lampoon's Animal House, which is a movie spoof about 1960s college fraternities, starring John Belushi. Does anybody remember the film?
Huge influence on my university days.
Oh,
Dying Fly was still going. Yeah, Animal House was huge. And someone mentioned that we should dance and do the Dying Fly doing certain songs. That was it.
You can give us a demo.
Maybe later.
Also, in 1866, Beatrix Potter, English author and illustrator, was born. She was inspired to write a story, The Tale of Gloucestershire, after visiting the tailor shop College Court, Gloucestershire, and her best-known book are The Tales of Peter Rabbit.
Ah, yes.
And of course, she was a great environmentalist, wasn't she? She bought a farm up in the Lake District.
Yeah.
And doesn't the National Trust own it now, I think?
Yes, she did. She left it to the National Trust.
She left her mark on the world in lots of different ways.
And I think so many children remember, and adults remember reading it to their children.
Yes.
I read it to my son. And he's a son.
I did, yeah.
So,
I read it to Angharad. She loved them.
Yeah.
The books.
To my daughter, the books are still there, but
They're all going, ooh.
Books are still there, but she's with other things now.
Also, in 1951, Walt Disney's animated musical film Alice in Wonderland was released. No, that's another iconic one for definite. And obviously, everybody remembers that. But they've had so many different twists on Alice in Wonderland, haven't they? Because the last one was quite dark, I think. They changed it quite into a dark
They
one,
always
didn't
have
they?
to change things, don't they? Not-
Yeah, I know.
Why change a good story?
I know.
He's a dark writer. He was a dark writer. If you read the book, say he's a dark writer.
Well, yes, that is true, yes.
Yeah, Jabberwocky.
Complex character, I think.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
There we go.
Thank you so much, both of you. Next up, we'll be taking a look at the papers. So see you after the break.
We look forward to that. See you then. Welcome back to Today on Bay TV. I'm Gaynor Morgan and this is Liz Cairns. Still with us on the programme is Christina Rees, the Shadow Secretary of State for Wales and of course MP for Neath. And we also have with us Peter Lynn from Peter Lynn and Partners Solicitors. So thank you both.
Well.
Shall we delve straight into the papers?
Why not?
Right. On the Metro, Grenfell, the net closes in. Now reasonable grounds for Met to suspect manslaughter. The Guardian, council could face Grenfell criminal charge. Met suspects authority and tower managers of corporate manslaughter. Daily Mail, just 6 weeks after Grenfell Inferno, police say council and tenant body could face death charges, and as you can see in capitals, manslaughter. This is the tone for a lot of the papers, and obviously within the news and that as well.
Just horrific.
Yes, yeah, it is. And more information is coming through, but the fact that it could be corporate manslaughter. Now, you being a solicitor, what exactly does that mean?
Well, the law's changed in recent years to allow corporate manslaughter against... So interestingly, they said corporate manslaughter against certain companies and then a different charges against local authorities. I've been involved in prosecuting and defending on behalf of the Health and Safety Executive in similar cases, not a fire situation, but certainly we've had high-profile cases in Wales, not least British Steel and Cumberland Burrows, etc., where there were deaths caused and charges have followed. This is very difficult because this is and so I'm going to be very careful as to how I comment, and this is a live issue and this is under investigation only. I read myself today that the police have said that there is some evidence to suggest that they could investigate. It's a long way away from actually bringing a charge.
What's the reason for the difference?
It's a level of recklessness, I suppose. It's a level of culpability on the part of a leading mind within the company, and it has to be at quite a high level, and high level equally at the local authority, I would have assumed. And it's a very high hurdle. There are other charges that can be brought under the legislation which are less than actual manslaughter. The public tend to latch on to the manslaughter charge because I think it sounds more as if there's more culpability, but in fact it's very hard to prove a corporate manslaughter as opposed to the other charges that can be brought against local authorities. For example, I was involved in, I think, the largest ever fine imposed on a local authority, which unfortunately was the Neath Port Talbot Council. And I don't want to go into details about that. It was some years ago now, but it was the highest ever fine imposed, and largely it'll be fine imposed. To find an individually culpable is very high level of
There are a lot of worried people about that.
There will be worried people,
yes.
but it is a very high burden of proof, and people like to find an individual scapegoat when in fact this is usually a generic institutional problem.
That's what I was going to come on to, Christina. We seem to live in a culture now where nothing matters except cutting costs, and it's almost as if people lose sight of the fact, particularly with local authorities perhaps in this instance, that people are charged with looking after people.
I think there are lots of issues in this particular instance, you know, and local authorities are under the cosh because their funding is being cut, which is terrible. So they're legally obliged to balance the budget, so they have to do it somewhere. And I was talking to a council leader yesterday, and she was saying that, you know, she's under tremendous pressure just to balance the books because she's had so many cuts imposed because the Tory government cut in the block grant, as you know, to the Welsh government, and they have to cut local authority funding. But it's also, you know, a mixed issue because there's duty of care as well, and we live in a blame culture as well.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so there's that in there as well.
But the local authority were deemed negligent of gross breach and duty of care, and then obviously fined. Where would that money come from then to pay the fines?
Can I answer that? It comes from the taxpayers of Grenfell. This is the problem with, and as I say, from personal experience, there is nothing really, in my opinion, to be gained just by looking for scapegoats or looking for large fines, because unfortunately it is the taxpayer or the council taxpayers of the local authority.
It'll be Kensington and Chelsea.
In Kensington and Chelsea, whatever that local authority is, ultimately it'll just be another cost for that hard-pressed local authority, which they will have to, where will they get the money from? They'll get it from the ratepayers.
You talk about hurdles. It's a much bigger hurdle to change the culture that we found ourselves enmeshed in, where, as you're saying, Christina, about balancing the books and all this, and these problems can be so immense, perhaps for individuals in companies and local authorities. It's almost as if people lose sight of the fact that actually councils are there and the people they're paying are there to look after people who, for one reason or another, aren't able to do so themselves.
I mean, it's the councils that deliver the services,
yes.
you know, and if they were to disappear, then there would be no public services. So councils really have to be protected. And in Wales, the Welsh Government have protected councils as much as they can. In England, they're much worse off. And to look just for fining, you know, sometimes blames the people who have suffered in the first instance.
And where are the rules and regulations? You know, you would act according to the rules and regulations in front of you, which would surely, it's a combination of the cladding, isn't it, and what was inside.
Well, I mean, Peter will be able to tell you better than I can, but from my experience many years ago, I mean, it's a health and safety issue.
It's a Health and Safety Act, and there's a lot of regulations within that. To be fair, I'll say this, local authorities generally take health and safety extremely seriously.
Yes.
In fact, one of the problems with the private sector who deal with local authorities is that the red tape, we have to go through so much bureaucracy.
That's what I'm saying about the regulations.
They're actually better. They are better normally than private companies at dealing with these issues. Because cost, please don't think that cost is only affects public bodies. It's a much bigger factor for private entities. And interestingly, one of the companies that I think is the management company that's being looked at from the corporate man sort of point of view. With all these tragedies, everyone looks for a scapegoat, and then often try and find an individual, whereas they're working in an environment of a team of people, and I can't believe anybody in any local authority would wish their tenants to suffer this. So I think it's what has to happen is there has to be full inquiry, and I think that there is the public inquiry and what lessons can be learned. And I know that all the local authorities are now undertaking tests, and in fact, not just local authorities, but universities and all bodies that have tower buildings are now waking up to the fact we better look at our regulations. And it is, I know that the regulatory bodies such as RICS are looking at their rules and regulations and say, are they tight enough? But what it's really about is, can lessons be learned and can things be made safer? But there will always be a cost. There will always be weighing the cost. And in a climate of austerity, then, unfortunately, questions will be asked as to whether was cost overriding. But I will just say this. My view of local authorities are that they are a better landlord than most private landlords.
Yeah, I would agree with Peter there. But if you come back to the tragedy of Grenfell, people, they're hurt, you know, people have died, people are still injured, they're very angry.
People are traumatised for life.
Traumatised for life. And the inquiry already, you can see that they're not happy with the remit of the inquiry. And really, when you've come through that, would you be happy with anything? You know, it's a tall order, isn't it?
Liz, what else have we got?
In South Wales Evening Post, it says city among worst in the UK for rat calls. Now, before, I'm going to say quickly, Swansea were actually the 6th, Neath Talbot were the 2nd, and Bridgend were the 1st. But what has been said, the reason why they are so high up ranking is because the council offer a free service to get rid of the rats.
So therefore the stats is there, is it?
Yes,
I get you. Yeah.
So it's not necessarily these areas have the most amount of rats in the area. It's just the fact that because they offer a free service, then obviously
people have taken up on taking it up. Yeah.
Yeah. So in a way, it's a kind of space.
I hate rats. If you're brought up on a farm, I mean, you do see rats.
Yeah.
I'm okay with rats. It's snakes I'm terrified of.
I've actually got a video of some cute rats for people to see.
Yeah,
Not the ones out of the street, pet rats. Should we have a quick look at these ones instead? So put you at ease now, Gaina. So
Put
better.
me off my lunch if I was going to have any.
They're little cute ones now, so you can think of them instead.
They're disgusting.
Pet rats are actually meant to be really clean.
Yeah, yeah.
No, they are. They are.
They can be very dangerous. Anyway.
Thank you so much, both. Peter and Christina will be staying with us after the break.
I look forward to joining you then. Welcome back to Today on Bay TV. We're joined by Solicitor Peter Lynn and Christina Rees, the Shadow Secretary of State for Wales, is also with us. Thank you both.
Thank you. So, Peter, you work for, you own, part owner then I should say, of a solicitor's firm. Do you have many all around Swansea and as far as Cardiff, I do believe?
Yeah, that's right. We started in 1999. Originally then we went to London as well, but I quickly got fed up with the commuting.
Trains weren't good enough.
No, don't talk about the train service, but yeah. So in 2001, retrenched back into South Wales, and I've grown quite significantly really since then, since 2001, by recruiting the best talent I can find around and live off them. That's the first thing. Live off the talent of others, that's the key.
You help a lot of the small businesses, don't you? So you do a lot to the community of Swansea.
Yeah, we're very much embedded in the community of Swansea. We have offices, as you say, throughout Swansea, from Mumbles, Swansea Centre, Morriston, Pontardawn up the Swansea Valley. We've even shown our largesse to the people of Cardiff by opening a small office there as well, so they can have the benefit. But we're entrenched in the community. We're very much a community-based offices, so we'll get involved in all the community events, in particular sport and entertainment, and whatever's going on. And our ethos is to try and prevent the legal issues from arising, if we can, rather than just be seen as bloodsuckers living off the problems afterwards.
Why would you do that?
Well, it was a sea change in my life.
Cutting down your income.
Yeah. Well, no, it's a sea change in my life in 1999. I'd acted for many years. I started as long ago as 1988 in litigation, suing and litigating for a variety of people and individuals and companies and local authorities. And for companies, they were getting into the same trouble over and over again, and they weren't protecting themselves. When I had the offices in London and operating for larger companies, they would protect themselves with very good contracts, very good terms and conditions of business. They would have partnership and shareholder agreements. They would preempt the problem by having good legal paperwork in place. Even now, I've been preaching the gospel for 20 years in Swansea. Most businesses will not have those structures in place. They will leave themselves open for certain areas of dispute, and largely with their employees, with their customers, with their fellow directors and shareholders.
Oh, that's interesting. How would that arise?
Well, because I'm sad to say that I think, is it 1 in every 3 marriages fail? I think it's higher than that, actually. And that's where you make a vow before God to stay with your partner, okay? And they don't work.
Well,
most partnerships and shareholders, you don't make those sort of vows. So why would you think they would last forever?
Yeah.
They don't, but everyone assumes that they will. And tensions can arise in any type of partnership arrangement or shareholder arrangement. And tensions can just be from an age thing. It could be because one is close to retirement and the other's not. You have a different perspective on what you should be spending your money on. And it's normally around retirement and exit. People don't think how they're going to leave their company or end their company. Some person might want to build it up and sell it on to the big boys. Others want to stay small. Others want to grow it for their internal management to come through. But if you don't have agreements in place as to what's going to happen, sooner or later you're going to fall out. And when you fall out, you end up employing a lawyer, both sides, very expensive, often an accountant, both sides, very expensive, and then have another lawyer and accountant decide who's right or wrong, by which time the business has gone through.
The trouble is so many firms start small and really all you're trying to do is keep going and pay the bills and keep going until you can get it a bit bigger. It's very hard to focus on the bigger picture at that point.
Exactly, and this is the education where I try and go into universities and other areas and business groups and say, look, it doesn't cost the earth to set yourself up legally, protecting yourself. For example, sooner or later you're going to have employees, which is the only way you can really make money is by having employees. Yeah. However, they're potentially a huge risk if they bring in employment claims. Yesterday, the Supreme Court ruled that employment tribunal costs, fees would go. Yeah. That's going to make it far easier for people to bring employment claims. There's been a massive downturn in the last 4 years.
It was a very unscrupulous employer's mind.
Massive victory for Unison.
Yeah. Massive victory for Unison.
Yeah. And fees are going to be
repaid to everybody who's, I think it's 20, I heard different figures, £27 million.
They must be able to protect themselves against unscrupulous employers.
Absolutely right, and the laws are there, and I think the law is great. There's been massive changes in law, largely European-led, so it's said, but in fact it's British representatives leading the way in Europe to bring those employment rights into this country. But the practicalities are for employers is that it's going to be easier for employees to bring claims. And whether you think it's right or wrong, that's going to mean more claims, for which every business, nearly every business, is uninsured. Most other risks are insured, but an employment claim is generally not part of your general insurance for business.
Interesting, yeah.
So it means if you get a sex discrimination claim against you, and also costs are not awarded in the employment tribunal, so even if you win, you're going to be paying your own lawyer's bill. Which could be £5,000, £10,000, £15,000. For a small business, that is not small potatoes. So we have a firm introduced our insured product, an insured product, with good lawyers, with some of the best employment lawyers in Wales, representing them. So for employers, we act for employees as well, but we have this product and policies so that we're on something of an even keel for employers, because many employees will have unions who will fund their employment claims, and the smaller businesses will not have that protection.
And what I was going to say is surely just taking a company or a small business to court can tarnish that company's name and reputation. Absolutely.
Reputational management is the biggest thing that we try and focus on. It's for my firm, it's about trying to protect that. That's exactly right. We of course we act after there's a problem, but we try to preempt the problem by having this insurance in place, having good policies and procedures in place, have good grievance procedures, have good working systems. So it doesn't cost that much, a few £100
what
to get good systems.
The definition of an employee, because a lot of people think it's just someone who's on the books, as it were. It's not
much wider. In fact, the courts are widening it, so I'm not up to date. But even now, the courts will be ruling that someone somewhere who hitherto was self-employed, the gig economy, is now an employee. In many ways, under European legislation, workers are generally widely defined anyway, and there's a lot of rights for workers, whether they're self-employed, casual, or full-time employee. But generally speaking, there's definitely a move that define more people as employees.
I think it sort of balances things out, because the Trade Union Act severely cut back on what trade unions could do. And as you know, many law firms do a lot of pro bono work. Well, now at least with employment fees scrapped, that'll balance it out. Yeah,
I think the employment tribunal system is a great system. It's set up to make it easier for these disputes. They're meant to be quickly and cleanly dealt with. The problem is that they've raised that there used to be quite small limits on what they could award. Those limits have gone away. For example, in discriminatory cases, there's no limit. So the awards can be huge. The risks and reputational damage to the employer can be massive. And I'm talking about small and medium-sized enterprises who cannot afford this. So we try and put a level of work in that prevents those problems from happening by having good practices, good policies, procedure, proper working arrangements, and with us on the end of the phone to make sure that it doesn't get that far. That we'll try and resolve the dispute internally, and to save the job for the person. That most people do not want to leave their employment. They don't want to go to court.
Treated properly, don't they?
They just want a proper conciliation, and we offer that service as well. So that's in the employment sphere, but we as a firm try and replicate that in all areas, such as small print, dealing with your customers.
Do you ever have anything to do with farmers? That's a minefield.
Yeah, well, it's because I'm a partnership lawyer in particular. As you know, most farmers are dealt with on informal partnerships. It's usually mum and dad and 3 children, one of whom goes away and does something else. I can tell you, it's the archetypal problem. I've been involved in many land disputes, and farmers do tend to like to litigate. They do tend to litigate. Oh, well.
What was in the family, or again? I thought they just have a
No. Well, no. If it's over a strip of land, and especially if it's a neighbour, I mean, nothing. I mean, you know, farmers like their delineated areas, and if Mr. Jones next door's got a new tractor, they want a new tractor. And, am I wrong in this? But I don't know. But the tragedy is they are informal partnerships, and it's often mum and dad work very hard, and they don't quite think about how they're going to exit that business. And if they just put a simple arrangement in,
it's a lot more complex. There's so much emotion. So.
I was going to say, if anybody did want to contact you, we've been viewing now. What is your email address or?
Oh, well, we're all over Swansea. It's Peter Lynn and Partners, or www.peterlynnandpartners.co.uk, or our telephone line number is there. We're in.
And you give a quote for your services first, or free?
Free of initial interview, free initial advice, and of course we quote. There's no unexpected bills anymore from lawyers. We're very closely regulated on that, so you have to tell you precisely what each stage is going to cost, and we wouldn't be in business very long or successful if we didn't operate fairly with our clients.
That's brilliant.
It's nice to hear from you. Let's hope we don't have to avail ourselves of your services, Liz.
Oh, we'd be...
You should.
We're very happy.
Thank you so much, both.
Thanks, Peter and Christina. After the break, we'll have some light relief with a very funny man, Neath comedian Paul James. Welcome back to Today on Bay TV. We have with us Nice comedian Paul James. So thank you for joining us. And we've also got Christina Rees MP, and she's with us to make sure all the jokes are, well, wholesome, funny.
Good morning.
I won't get a signal there.
Well, I believe you have a video for us to watch firstly.
Do I?
No? No, we haven't actually, sorry.
Why would we want a video? We've got you
We've
here
got you in the flesh.
Yeah,
It's even better, actually. So the comedy festival has been going on all week, I do believe.
All month from the 1st of July. Yeah, and it's the last one tomorrow.
Oh, how's it been going?
Oh, brilliant. Attendance has been really good. People from Neath supporting it, and people come in from Swansea, Cardiff, and further afield than that. It's been really good. Shows have been great.
How does it work? Is it all over Nice? Or?
Yeah, but there's lots of different. We've got some nice. We're trying to take it and hit as many different types of audience as possible. So people like to have a dinner and a show, can go to places like the Gwyn Hall. We've had, we're at Spit and Sawdust pubs. We've been at the Duke in Neath. We've been at the Cricket Club. We've been all over the show.
That's brilliant. So tomorrow, where would you be? And obviously tonight.
But nothing tonight. The night after tonight. Tomorrow is the grand finale at the Gwyn Hall in Neath. The headliner we got there tomorrow, Norman Lovett, who used to be on Red Dwarf. He was the Ollie the computer. And we got an all-star cast tomorrow. It's going to be brilliant.
That's tomorrow evening, is it?
It's tomorrow night, 8 o'clock in the Gwyn Hall.
So what's the ethos behind it? Obviously to make people laugh. But
it's just I can walk to every gig. Usually I'm up and down. I was talking about the trains earlier. I live on trains. Like last month I had a gig in Durham on a Saturday night, and I was in Truro the next day, so it was like a 10-hour epic journey. But this way I just get to walk to all my gigs and walk back. It's brilliant.
Have you been, Christina?
I didn't go, but my office staff went on the first night and they were absolutely bowled over. They think you're the best thing since sliced bread, Paul.
Good.
Have you noticed that Nice is a jollier place since this has been on?
Yeah, Nice is a jolly place anyway, Dana.
It's a very cutchy place, I always think, Nice. It's lovely.
That's true, yeah.
It's very parochial, and we had the beer festival on last weekend as well, and that was held in the town hall on the Friday and the Saturday, and it was so popular they ran out of beer.
That's great. Well, that's a really good sign then, isn't it? Definitely.
Well, I don't know, is it?
Well, to run out. It's definitely popular.
Yeah, plenty of beer.
So where do you get your inspiration from?
I got really eclectic sort of mix. I used to love the old Swansea boy looking at the Goons, Harry Seacombe, obviously, and Spike Milligan, Tommy Cooper. But I like people, Sean Locke and lots of, and Billy Connolly, obviously. More modern comics. If it's funny, I like it.
Yeah.
And I think people, and it's such a mix in the comedy festival. We've got people from all over the world doing their Edinburgh previews. So we've got sort of big Canadian names and American sort of stars of comedy, as well as Welsh. And
So you saw it here first.
Yeah.
How did the Nice Festival start?
I used to run a comedy club called the Clown's Pocket in Neath, in the Duke in Neath, and people, just before we went to Edinburgh, wanted a preview show. We've had some quite big names. We've had Milton Jones, Rufus Hound, Mark Thomas, people I didn't want to say no to. So that then expanded into, well, we'll do a week of it, and that was the first Neath Festival in the one venue over the space of a week. Now people are nagging me rather than me chasing people to do shows. They want to come to Neath. It's a great audience.
That's wonderful. That's really successful.
Yeah. So the prelude to the Edinburgh Fringe, then, is it?
Yeah. It's and sometimes like tomorrow night and last night, they're not people doing Edinburgh shows. They're just doing Neath, saving money. Edinburgh costs a lot of money for comics to do. It's a trade fair. You don't make money. You can sell out every night, and you might as well just take £3,000 in a big wheelbarrow and chuck it into the Neath Canal.
Oh, really? That's the passion, didn't you?
Yeah.
That's basically what it is. But you're also Neath local councillor as well.
I am.
So how do you combine the both?
Quite easily. Yeah, it's something. I've always I was a Labour Party member and always been a voter, and I just got sick of arguing with people on the internet about things. And in Neath, I think we're quite active, aren't we?
Yeah, very active.
We don't agree in talking shops. We want to go out into the community and do things. I live in Neath town centre practically, and and that Ale Festival is part of what we do. Right. And it's just becoming active rather than just as I say.
Do you ever diffuse the tension in a council meeting by making people laugh? Or?
I'm finding my feet at the moment. There's a lot of great councillors done a lot of work there, sort of more experienced, and they're sort of working out. It's only since May I've been in that role, so it's.
We're going straight from here. We're going to Neath, to actually Paul's ward, and we're going to do a street surgery. Brilliant. And how that works is the day before we go and we leaflet. So we got leaflets with us on and the local county councillors as well. And we leaflet houses, and then if anybody wants to see us, they put it in their window. So when we go around this afternoon, we make house calls.
Oh, that's brilliant. And then you haven't also got the worry or the fear then you knock in when somebody doesn't really want you to knock. I think that's brilliant. If they just put it up, you know, it gives you that more confidence, I think, especially if you're new to it as well.
Yeah, that's one of the daunting things I thought, because before this campaign I hadn't been canvassing, and I did on my own campaign and with Christina. I think that puts a lot of people off, that if they think that we're going to talk and argue with people and maybe have some abuse. I think once you start doing it, it's one of the most enjoyable things, I think. It
is, and you have some amazing conversations, and most of them are positive. Yeah. People just want to talk about things, you know, and some people think, well, what's politics? I don't know what politics is. But politics is having your bins collected, having the potholes in the road repaired. That is politics. And I think taking that to a different level, we have to encourage children to get involved in their community, in not being afraid of what this word politics means.
I think you touched on it earlier when you said that you were sick of arguing on the internet and that. And I think that has enthused a lot of the younger generation to have an interest in politics as well. And when you were saying about it, we need to enthuse the children to get involved in the politics as well. I actually do think that the internet, from what I've read and that, has helped the younger generation to get involved and to be more interested about it. And we saw that, obviously, with the general election, with more...
Social media was so prominent in this last
But does that come down to council level, though?
I think so, and like some of the issues that Christina, certainly the nuts and bolts of what happens in people's lives in the town centre. It doesn't sound interesting with drains and allotments and things like that, but the last meeting in estates we had people who were allotment holders. And it was just getting broken into, and it didn't sound like a serious problem. But when you're cultivating something over months,
allotments are really important to people.
Just to have that stolen or damaged or vandalised, these people are practically in tears. And we were able to help them in this instance, and if we can, we will.
And we were talking about public services earlier. You know, that's really important, public service, that people know they've got somewhere to go, that they can get help, and that's why I work with town councillors, I work with county councillors, the Assembly, and our fantastic range of Welsh MPs, and we're working together to improve services, to improve the life for people in the community.
Well, I was going to say you could improve ours and the viewers by just giving us a quick little joke. Would be nice.
I've got literally no material that will be suitable.
I was going to ask you earlier, actually, what type of comedian you were.
I've had my warnings.
I think you've answered that, then what type of comedian. Surely you must have a clean joke. That's made us all laugh anyway. I'm sure that's home as well.
Anything funny about this?
I'll tell you my daughter's favourite joke.
Okay.
Brilliant.
Which is, what is E.T. short for? Because he's got little legs.
That's really funny.
Oh, God. I'm going to have to just come and watch you now, aren't I?
Yeah, tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Tomorrow night you're going to be...
I want to see now.
Yeah, go on.
Do they think you're funny at home, or are you just dad?
No. If a joke is going to... a joke has to fail to my wife to know it's going to work on stage. I'll get that blank expression from her and I think, great, that's a keeper.
Yes, definitely.
I mean, laughter, though, in itself is therapy, isn't it?
Oh, gosh,
you've got to laugh. And laughing at yourself, I laugh at myself all the time. You wouldn't believe the things that happen in my life. I need to write a book. I need to actually write that book.
You do need to write a
book.
Yes. Yes. No, it's... I've always got a bit of a time lapse. I never get jokes till a few seconds after everyone else, which annoys my husband terribly.
Thank you so much, both.
Yes, really interesting. Thank you, and we look forward to the next festival.
Yes, and a big thank you to all our guests today for joining us on the show.
And don't forget that next on Bay TV we have our afternoon matinee movie. Today it's the 1957 drama The Man in the Sky.
And happy birthday to Phil Hoyles.